A dusty scroll rests upon a weathered wooden table, its edges worn by time. The ink is dark and deliberate, revealing the words of Matthew, chapter 18, verse 3. In the shadow of first-century stone walls, a child sits alone in the dirt. Merchants and travelers rush by, their heavy robes sweeping the dust, eyes fixed on their own destinations. The child reaches out a small hand, but the world is too busy to notice. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. Jesus stands among his disciples, a calm presence in the chaos. He gestures softly, and the child walks into the center of the circle. The disciples look down, their initial confusion melting into a profound realization. This is the path. As the ancient scene fades, we find ourselves in the cold neon light of a modern city. A man stands still as the rushing crowd of commuters blurs around him. He looks at his reflection in a dark window, seeing his own weary eyes. A warm light catches his face. He stops fighting the tide and lets the world pass him by. He breathes out, finally at peace. The kingdom of heaven belongs to those who know they are nobodies. The air in the room was thick with resentment. Peter pointed a flushed finger at John, his face twisted with frustration. Jesus watched them with a calm, steady gaze. He did not interrupt the chaos. Jesus simply smiled, his expression softening the bitter tension. As the music swells, the scene shifts to an open field. A man stands alone. He slowly raises his arms toward the horizon, palms open to the sky. A woman kneels to wash a stranger's feet. Dependence. A man hands a warm loaf of bread to a neighbor. Surrender. A group lifts a heavy beam together. Trust. The final path is bathed in gold. A man walks forward. A small child runs to his side, grabbing his hand firmly. Squeezing the child's fingers with love, they walk into the light. A massive ladder stretches into the infinite clouds, crowded with souls pushing upward. Behind them, the towering shadow of a cross looms, casting dark, heavy lines across every rung. They climb for power, driven by a heavy, rhythmic pulse that demands they reach the top. Suddenly, the rhythm breaks. A man stands in the center of the chaos, his hands moving with shattering force as he flips a heavy wooden table. The air shifts. The greatest is the one who becomes like this child. The ladder vanishes. A woman kneels on a dirt floor, scrubbing a stranger's garment. Down is up. A man bends his back, carrying a heavy load for an elderly neighbor. Weak is strong. A runner stops mid-race, choosing to lift a fallen rival. Last is first. Finally, a young person shares bread with a hungry child. As their hands touch, a soft, warm light begins to radiate, growing brighter, enveloping the room in a glow that consumes the darkness until all is blinding white. The disciples stood in a tight circle, their voices rising in a heated dispute. "I should sit at the right hand," one argued, gesturing toward the empty space. Another countered, "My service has been longer. The position is mine." They were measuring their worth and calculating their status. Jesus watched them for a long moment, then walked to the edge of the room. He took a young child by the hand, leading him into the center of the circle. The disciples fell silent. The boy stood there, small and still, clutching nothing. He had no legal standing, no property, and no voice to argue his own case. He was entirely dependent on those around him for his safety. Jesus placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. "You are building a ladder to reach a height. This is the kingdom. It is about having no leverage and admitting you have nothing." Their ambitions suddenly felt heavy. "You cannot hold your status and the kingdom. Which one are you holding?"